The train screeched as it pulled into the crowded subway station, doors sliding open to let in a rush of people. Commuters squeezed into the car, some carrying bags of groceries, others clutching briefcases, their tired eyes staring at the floor. But in the midst of the noise, one sound rose above the hum of conversations and clattering footsteps, the desperate, piercing cries of a baby. Heads turned. Some passengers sighed in annoyance, others tried to ignore it by turning up the volume on their headphones, but no one could fully block out the sound of that tiny voice, crying as if her heart was breaking. Sitting on one of the seats, holding the baby in his arms, was a man in an expensive suit. His tie was loosened, his hair neatly styled, but sweat trickled down his forehead. He bounced the baby awkwardly, clearly lost and overwhelmed. He tried patting her back, whispering, "It's okay," but the baby only screamed louder. Across from him, leaning against the door, stood another man. His clothes were worn, his shoes scuffed, and his face carried the exhaustion of someone who had been fighting battles most people couldn't see. His name was Daniel. He was a single dad, raising his 5-year-old daughter on his own after his wife had left years ago. Every day was a struggle, juggling 2 part-time jobs, barely making enough to pay rent, and constantly worrying about whether there'd be enough food in the fridge. Daniel watched the scene carefully. His heart clenched at the sound of the baby's cries, because it reminded him of the countless nights he had stayed up rocking his own daughter when she was just an infant. He remembered how helpless he had felt, not knowing if he was doing it right, just praying she would finally stop crying. That memory pulled him forward before he even realized what he was doing. He stepped closer and cleared his throat. "Excuse me," he said softly, his voice almost hesitant. "Do you mind if I try?" The man in the suit looked up, surprised. His eyes were tired, almost desperate, but guarded too. "Try what?" he asked, holding the baby tighter. "Your baby," Daniel said. I'm good with kids. Maybe I can help calm her down." For a moment, the suited man hesitated. It was clear he wasn't used to trusting strangers, especially strangers on a subway. But the baby's cries grew louder, and his face betrayed his helplessness. With a reluctant sigh, he carefully handed the baby over. As soon as the little girl was in Daniel's arms, something shifted. He rocked her gently, humming a low tune he used to sing to his daughter. His movements were natural, practiced the rhythm of a man who had done this 1,000 times before. The baby whimpered, hiccuped, and within minutes, her cries softened into tiny sniffles. Soon, she was resting her head against Daniel's chest, her tiny fists clinging to his shirt as her breathing slowed. The subway car went quiet. Passengers who had been annoyed moments ago now stared in awe. The man in the suit looked at Daniel with something between disbelief and gratitude. How did you do that?" he asked quietly. Daniel smiled faintly, his eyes fixed on the baby. "I've had practice. My little girl used to cry the same way. Sometimes, all they need is to feel safe." The suited man studied him for a long moment. Then he said, "My name's Michael." His voice carried a weight, as if he was used to people knowing who he was. "Michael Harrington." Daniel raised an eyebrow. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it right away. He simply nodded. "Daniel." Michael extended his hand, but Daniel couldn't shake it. His arms were full with the now sleeping baby. Michael gave a small chuckle at the irony. As the subway continued its rumbling journey, Michael opened up, almost as if he couldn't hold it in anymore. "I don't usually take the subway," he admitted. "I have drivers for that. But today, I wanted to do something different, to feel normal. I thought I could handle it, but clearly." He glanced at the baby with a sheepish look. "I wasn't prepared." Daniel gave a small smile. "Babies don't care about money or drivers. They just need love and attention." Michael shifted uncomfortably. "I guess that's where I'm failing. My wife passed away 6 months ago. Since then, I've been trying to manage everything, the company, the house, and now," he gestured helplessly toward the baby, "I love her more than anything, but I don't know what I'm doing. Half the time, she cries, and I don't even know why." Daniel's heart softened. For a moment, the suits and wealth didn't matter. Michael wasn't a millionaire. He was just a father, scared and trying his best. "I know how that feels," Daniel said quietly. "When my wife left, I didn't think I could do it. I had no money, no help. I'd rock my baby all night, then drag myself to work the next morning. People said I wouldn't last. But you do it because, well, they're your whole world, right?" Michael nodded, his eyes glassy. Exactly. The train slowed at the next stop. and people shuffled in and out. But Daniel and Michael stayed in their little world, connected by the shared struggles of fatherhood. Then came a moment that changed everything. A woman stepped onto the train, pushing a stroller, her face pale with exhaustion. She looked around, trying to find space, but the subway was too crowded. Her stroller bumped against knees and bags, and the baby inside began to fuss. Daniel watched silently, but Michael reacted first. He stood, motioning for her to take his seat. The woman blinked, surprised. "Oh, thank you," she murmured. Michael smiled awkwardly, and Daniel noticed something in his eyes: empathy. Perhaps Michael had spent years surrounded by people who bowed to his wealth. But here, stripped of all that, he was just a father learning compassion. The subway ride ended sooner than expected. As they stepped off, Michael turned to Daniel. "Listen, you've helped me more than you know. Could I do something for you in return?" Daniel shook his head quickly. "No need, just take care of her. That's enough." But Michael wasn't satisfied. He pressed, asking about Daniel's life. And when Daniel reluctantly explained his struggles working 2 jobs, barely making rent, Michael fell silent. He looked down at his daughter, then back at Daniel, and said words Daniel never expected. "Come work for me." Daniel blinked. "What? You clearly know how to care for children, and I need someone like you, a nanny, a guide, maybe even a friend. I'll pay you well. You won't have to worry about bills anymore." Daniel hesitated. He was proud, and the thought of accepting charity stung. But then he thought of his daughter, of the nights she went to bed hungry, of the rent notices piling up. Slowly, he nodded. "All right, I'll think about it." That yes turned into the beginning of something neither of them expected. Over the next months, Daniel became a steady presence in Michael's life. He cared for the baby with patience, teaching Michael how to soothe her, how to understand her cries. In return, Michael opened doors Daniel never imagined: better schooling for his daughter, financial security, and even a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. But more than that, a friendship blossomed. 2 fathers from completely different worlds, brought together by the cries of a baby on a subway. The challenges didn't disappear overnight. Michael struggled with grief, often breaking down when memories of his late wife hit him. Daniel wrestled with pride, feeling guilty for accepting help. Sometimes, they argued over parenting methods, over boundaries. But through it all, they grew stronger, because they had one thing in common: love for their children. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Daniel sat on Michael's balcony, watching their kids play together. Michael joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You know," Michael said quietly, "that day on the subway, I thought I was failing as a father, but then you stepped in. You showed me that being a good dad isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, every single day." Daniel smiled, his eyes misty. "And you reminded me that it's okay to accept help, that sometimes, even the strongest need someone to lean on." They sat in silence, listening to the children's laughter. 2 men, 2 fathers, forever changed by a chance encounter underground. And, in that moment, Daniel realized something powerful. Sometimes life puts us in the darkest tunnels so that we can meet the people who will help us find the light.